Hello, everyone. Hollywood is reeling, fans are devastated, and the entertainment world is buzzing with disbelief as Kevin Costner finally breaks his silence and explains the real reason Yellowstone won't be returning. And according to the actor himself, it's far worse than anyone imagined. For years, Yellowstone stood as one of the most powerful and emotionally charged shows on television, capturing the rugged beauty of the American West while exposing the dark underbelly of family loyalty, greed, and survival. But behind the scenes, the drama that unfolded was every bit as intense as what fans saw on screen. And now, as Costner lays it all bare, audiences are beginning to understand that the show's shocking demise wasn't just about contracts or creative disputes. It was about betrayal, exhaustion, and a vision that crumbled under its own success. Kevin Costner, who brought the iconic John Dutton to life with an intensity that made him the moral backbone of the series, has finally revealed that the fallout leading to Yellowstone's cancellation was far deeper and more personal than most people realized. Speaking candidly in a recent interview, Costner admitted that the breakdown between him and the show's creator, Taylor Sheridan, wasn't just about scheduling conflicts or film commitments, as so many reports suggested, but about what he called a loss of trust and integrity in how the story and the people behind it were being handled. His words struck fans like a lightning bolt, confirming that what was once the heartbeat of American television had been quietly bleeding behind the scenes for years. According to Costner, the problems began long before the public ever caught wind of them. While Yellowstone continued to dominate ratings, pulling in millions of viewers per episode, creative tension between Costner and Sheridan grew to unbearable levels. It wasn't about ego, Costner explained. It was about honesty, about keeping the promise we made to the audience. For him, the story of John Dutton wasn't just another acting role. It was a meditation on legacy, the cost of power, and the slow erosion of values in modern America. But as the show expanded into a sprawling media empire, with spin-offs like 1883, 1923, and more in the pipeline, Costner felt the original story was being lost in the shuffle. "We started with this intimate, character-driven Western," he said, "and by the end, it felt like we were losing sight of what made Yellowstone great, its heart." His frustration deepened when production delays and rewritten schedules began interfering with his commitment to his passion project, Horizon, an American saga, a multi-part Western film series that Costner has poured his soul and personal fortune into. But what really broke him, according to those close to the actor, wasn't the logistics. It was the feeling of being blindsided by a studio system that seemed to turn its back on him. "There were decisions being made that didn't include me," Costner revealed, his voice reportedly cracking with emotion during a recent press appearance. "And after giving so much to this character, it was like being cut out of my own family." He had reportedly offered to return for additional scenes to wrap up John Dutton's story properly, but communication between him and Sheridan grew so fractured that it became impossible. At one point, a source close to the production said, Kevin just stopped hearing from them. Scripts were delayed, schedules were changed, and nobody was giving him straight answers. Fans may recall the chaos earlier in the year when Paramount announced the second half of Yellowstone's fifth season would be postponed indefinitely, a move that at the time seemed temporary, but now, in hindsight, was the beginning of the end. Costner described the moment he realized the show might never return as a gut punch, saying, "When you invest years of your life into something, when you believe in it, when you carry it on your shoulders, you expect at least a conversation, not silence. And that silence, he says, final straw came when Sheridan reportedly began focusing his attention almost entirely on the spin-offs, particularly 1923 with Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren, and the upcoming 6666 project set in Texas, leaving Yellowstone in creative limbo. For Costner, who values loyalty above all else, that felt like betrayal. "I love Taylor's writing," he admitted, "but I wish we'd protected Yellowstone with the same care we gave everything else. It deserved that." Behind the scenes, tensions between the cast and crew also began to ripple outward. Reports surfaced of divided loyalties, long shooting delays, and growing frustration among actors who weren't sure whether their storylines would ever be resolved. Several crew members have since spoken out anonymously, describing the mood on set during the final weeks of filming as heavy and heartbreaking. One insider said, "Everyone could feel it, that something was ending before anyone would admit it." Kevin was trying to keep morale up, but you could tell he was done fighting battles that didn't need to be fought. But what makes Costner's revelation truly painful for fans is how personal this story has become. Yellowstone wasn't just a hit show, it was a cultural movement, breathing new life into the Western genre and reconnecting millions with a forgotten vision of America. Viewers saw themselves in the Duttons' struggles, the clash between tradition and change, land and greed, family and betrayal. And for Costner, who has always been drawn to stories about moral endurance in the face of corruption, Yellowstone was more than television. It was a statement about what America has lost and what's still worth fighting for. "Losing that platform," he says, "feels like losing a part of the conversation we need to be having as a country." And yet, there's another layer to the heartbreak: the financial and emotional toll that this entire ordeal has taken on Costner himself. He reportedly invested millions of his own money into Horizon, partly to fill the creative void left by Yellowstone, but also as a way to reclaim control over his artistic destiny. However, the collapse of Yellowstone's final season has cast a long shadow over his new venture. "I don't regret standing up for myself," he said, "but I wish it hadn't come to this. I wish it hadn't hurt so many people who love this show." Those close to him described the actor as both defiant and heartbroken, proud of his work, but deeply saddened by how things ended. Meanwhile, fans are still grappling with the reality that Yellowstone may never get the closure it deserves. Rumors of a replacement series starring Matthew McConaughey have done little to soothe the blow, especially after Costner's comments confirmed what many feared: that John Dutton's story will not get the ending it was promised. "That character deserved a farewell," Costner said plainly, "and so did the fans. But sometimes Hollywood forgets that these stories belong to the audience too." Those words have since gone viral, reigniting debates about how streaming-era studios treat both creators and fans in their rush for expansion. Still, even amid the heartbreak, there's a note of quiet dignity in how Kevin Costner has handled the fallout. He's not lashing out. He's reflecting, processing, and in true Dutton fashion, standing tall in the face of disappointment. "You can't build something like Yellowstone without putting your heart into it," he said. "And sometimes that means you'll get your heart broken. But I'd rather have that than never have built it at all." That bittersweet statement captures exactly why fans loved him, because Costner, like John Dutton, represents a dying breed, men who still believe in honor, legacy, and doing what's right even when it hurts. As fans flood social media with messages of gratitude, old clips, and heartfelt tributes, it's clear that Yellowstone may be gone, but its spirit lives on. In every line of dialogue, every panoramic shot of Montana's wild landscape, and every hard-earned tear shed over the Dutton family's sacrifices. And though Kevin Costner's revelation confirms that the show's return is not just delayed, but dead for good, his courage in speaking truth has given fans something even more meaningful: closure. The end of Yellowstone may be darker than anyone expected, but through Kevin Costner's honesty, we finally see it for what it truly was: not a failure, but the inevitable conclusion of a masterpiece that burned too bright to last. And as Costner himself said in his final words on the subject, the story may be over, but the legacy, that's forever. Thanks for watching.